don't do that way.
And we are live.
Right, guys, cheers for coming down and joining us on the second tasting of the Brew York 9th Birthday Bash. That's getting easier throughout the day as everyone's slightly more pissed. I will be hosting them throughout the day, so we've just had LHG, the first one, and the next one we've got is Emperors coming down, bringing some very special and sessionable beers ranging from 14% to 18%. But this one is one that we've all come to see, is Wayne and Lee talking about beer, which I've known them both for 10 years, and it's all that they've ever done. So I'll be hosting, so I'm Tom. Hello, everyone.
Hello,
I'm from Key Cake. So a little bit about me. I've worked for Key Cake. Before that, I was over at Wander Beyond in Manchester, and then before that, I was with these guys when we were a lot smaller than what we are now. And then before that, as a
buying to the brewery, not us. But
well, yeah.
Well, both are applicable.
I mean, there's plenty of pictures of me stood between Wayne and Lee where I just look like their son.
Weird love child.
But guys, it's just so I do sort of know what I'm talking about, even if I do look like this, which is quite fun. But we're going to have 3 beers this afternoon. Are they all 9 rounds? So,
yes, they are.
Love it. So I'll just hand over to Lee, who's written a script, which is very well prepared compared to everyone else.
Right, well, I always write a script. I do like to be prepared. So we're changing things up. So I'm going to do the intro this time. We'll ordinarily be Wayne. So this is our 55th live session, and it is the first since our subscriber party, which was in January. So it has been a little bit of a wait, so it's good to have you all back together again. So welcome to any subscribers and to those watching us live, who I suspect is like Wayne, probably very few, because I think most of you are here. So this time, for anyone not in the room, we are coming from a gazebo at the front of the brewery at the birthday bash for our 9th birthday celebrations. We've only got 1 hour, so we're only doing 3 beers, and it's only smaller proportions, although we've got the ability to top up. Right, which is great, because I'm feeling shocking from yesterday, and so I'm on a lemon radler. So yeah, it's only going to be an hour. But we do plan on doing another YouTube live soon. We're looking at Friday the 9th of May. All being well, that will take place at the Old Grey Mare, our new venue on the other side of York, next to Clifton Green. So in this session, we will not be doing the usual kind of updates that you would get, where Wayne would tell you what his last month or last 3 months would be. And yeah, we won't be telling you what's coming in your box next time, except probably going to be about the 3 beers, and in between the 3 beers, Mr. Bacon, I cannot call you Tom. Bacon is going to be asking us some questions, but if you have any questions of your own, I'm sure he'll come and bring the mic to you. Yeah.
So, should probably tell you all what we're going to drink today, mainly for the people at home who are watching back if they want to try and drink along. We're going to go through 3 beers. Lee mentioned that 3 beers in an hour, but they're only small samples, so it's not too much to get through. And I don't think Lee could drink any more than 3 at this point. He's already had 5 Lucozades on his walk-in. 5 Lucozades.
If anyone had the pleasure of being at the tasting we did this time last year, which was a full barrel-aged tasting at 12 o'clock on a Saturday, and Lee walked in and just put 4 Lucozade sports on the table, and I was worried about you, Dad. Actually worried about you.
But like Wayne was saying when he texted me this morning, the barrel-aged beer did somewhat sort me out. And we conclude this session with the barrel-aged beer, so I'm stealing your line, so hopefully that will sort me out.
So yeah, we're going to start off nice and easy. It's Odin's Gaze, which is a collaboration we did with Northern Monk, 5.2% New England IPA, nice easy drinking, soft beer. We're going to go on to Celestial Steed, which is a 8.5% chocolate and matcha parfait stout. Not that easy to say. I was about to say sour, but it's definitely not sour. And then we're going to conclude on Fenrir's Howl, which is 11% whiskey and bourbon barrel-aged spice stout. So a little bit to go out. We'll tell you a little bit more about them when we get onto them. But I don't need to say get your beers out and warm them up, because we're warming them up for you in the corner. So any questions from the audience in particular, if you want to put your hands up, Tom will relay the question and probably make a joke at the same time. So
at your expense.
Exactly. So yeah, any feedback, and anyone watching at home afterwards and stuff, if you've got any questions, comments, or pointers for the live tasting, please pop them in a message to info@brewyork.co.uk.
Cool. Right, so first up, everybody got their beers? No, I can see Joanna's still handing them out. So we've got Odin's Gaze. This is a 5.2% New England IPA, which, as Wayne has said, has been brewed with Northern Monk. So before I tell you about the beer, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the series that we are creating. So it's called 9 Realms, and when we initially conceived it, it was going to be 9 beers. Somehow it's become 12 beers. So the 9 beers are all going to be pale beers, and you're going to get one each month. So this is the first one, and then there'll be one every month to the end of the year for our 9th birthday. Each one of them is going to be a different type of pale, so we're starting out with a New England this time. Next one is a session IPA made with Vocation. The one after that is a West Coast IPA made with Thornbridge, which I'm very much looking forward to. That is absolutely my kind of beer. And then I'll be telling you in a second the other breweries that we're going to be collaborating with. So why have we done 9 realms? Well, 9 is a very significant number in Norse mythology. There are the 9 realms of the Tree of Life, Yggdrasil. And I guess the main inspiration came from York's kind of Viking heritage, but also because I've been playing the game God of War on my PS5 and have learned a lot about Norse mythology through that game. So that's where the original idea came from. So to this specific beer, so it's a New England IPA, so Northern Monk are very well known for Faith, which is a phenomenal beer. So we wanted to make something along those lines with them. But Brian from Northern Monk said to us, well, why don't we make it a little bit different? Why don't we use New Zealand hops in this particular one? So we have sourced a couple of different types of New Zealand hops. It's got Ruaka and Waihiti, if I'm pronouncing that correct, which I probably am. And the Ruaka is a cryo form of Ruaka, and it's the most expensive hop we have ever purchased. 65 pounds a kilo.
Oh,
yeah, 65 pounds a kilo.
to put that into perspective for some guys, that's what, quadruple?
Well, our Citra is £24.40 a kilo. So yeah, it's very, very expensive. And no, it wasn't sourced from here. It was from another source that will go unnamed for now.
Are you not worried about the carbon footprints?
Are we worried about the carbon footprints? In a word, no.
The thing is with any agriculture, especially in hops, but more importantly in malt, the biggest carbon footprint is the growing and the agriculture. The logistics are actually pretty negligible.
But in all seriousness, we are having a big focus this year on sustainability. I'm not going to bore you to tears with that right now. If you want to catch me afterwards, I will put you to sleep. Okay. Right. Yeah, and we've also got in this something called Simcoe Hyper Boost. Sorry, Ian, I did not plan this, but this is also another hop not acquired from Bathurst, who do supply the vast majority of our hops. Ian, I've not done this on purpose, mate. I'm really sorry.
We filled keg stars.
That's it.
We didn't mention where Tom worked, did we? Oh,
yeah, several times.
He did.
I was keen to.
Oh, cheers, man. 10 years I've known them.
So the Simcoe Hyper Boost is a very new to market product, which is 100 times concentrated oil from the Simcoe hop, which you can put in at different points, but we put it in late fermentation, and it gives a very concentrated kind of flavour of that particular hop, whilst minimising the losses that you incur from the beer. So, having tasted the beer, which I will now do. Oh, I know what it tastes like because I had about 3 of them last night. I think
it really looks like you're enjoying that. Really.
I think it's a bit more subtle than some of the New Englands you get out there, and that's because we're using the New Zealand hops in there. And New Zealand hops don't tend to have such pronounced character. It tends to come down to the terroir where these things are grown. So in the US, irrigated desert, masses of sunlight, that leads to very intense flavours. In New Zealand, their climate is not that dissimilar from the UK, but does have a little bit more sun. So they have hops that are more intense than those you would get in the UK, but certainly nowhere near as intense as those as you get from the US. But it can lead to more kind of delicate, interesting flavours. The hops are very well known for like white wine-like characters, gooseberry-like characters brought into the beer. I think we have something like that in this particular one. Right. Do you want to announce some of the breweries that we're going to be collabing with?
Well, you already did. You already did the spoilers as usual. You started with it. What we wanted to do this year was work with some of the big UK breweries who we've worked really well with over the first 9 years, but also brew with a couple of breweries or a few breweries that we've never really worked with. So I've already gone on to my second page because I only got these notes like literally 5 minutes before we started because I didn't realise we were scripting it. But yeah, the breweries we're working with, Vocation was the second brewery, which that beer releases at the start of May. So we're packaging that soon, so we'll get a sneak preview of it next week. Like Lee mentioned, Thornbridge, one of our favourite breweries. We love West Coast, hence the orangey colour side beer I've got in my little glass here. So we're excited to brew with those guys again. We brewed with them a couple of years ago and made a really cool beer called Fawny Eagle, and also a return beer called Some Friday That, which is a reference to how the after party went after we brewed the beer, which is a bit good. We've got Siren, another brewery we get on really well with from down in Reading. We've got some of our Reading crew in the back at the today. Always, you see these guys always with a pint of Imperial Stout in their hands. What's more impressive is there's not that many people who can drink as much as me and Liam. That's not a brag. That's just with big guys.
Cry for help.
but you always find these guys propping us up in the corner at the end of a festival because they seem to be masters at it as well. We're also brewing with a couple of the breweries. One of the breweries in particular we've got here today. So Vault City. We've got a really cool collab coming up with those guys for the series. We've got our friends at Salt Brewery, they're coming to do one, and then the other breweries were introductions made by our new head brewer. So our new head brewer, we've mentioned him before on a couple of these streams, a guy called Davide, I can't pronounce his surname. Caligari. So he's been across in Norway brewing for Lervik for a few years. He started their barrel age project and he made some really good contacts while he was out there. So we're brewing with a brewery called Boden, one called Salamar, and one I'm not even going to try and pronounce, but...
Oh, that's why I give it to you.
H-A-A-N-D.
Hamburgerette.
There we go. Yes. Perfect. So yeah, some really cool, exciting brewers we're working with on this project. But more exciting for me is that we're proper geeks, and we want stickers, and we want like a poster we can put the stickers on. So we've got all the artwork's looking really, really good. The guys from United by Design who do all our branding done an amazing job on this, and it started with the Odin's Gaze in the centre with the Odin on the front of it, and we've managed to do some really cool stuff with the sticker labels with the combination of foil and matte varnish finish. So we're really pleased with these, and if you get the beers, you can peel the labels off and cut the blurb off and stick them on this poster. So yeah, we like I say, we're proper nerds and we just love that type of stuff.
You both all had full football sticker albums.
Yeah, and this has, like you said, the metallic finish, so this is the equivalent of the shiny. So I did plan to kind of show that poster here, and then I've completely forgotten. So if people want to see that, where would they go?
Head to our website.
Head to our website, and you can see it on there, can you? And we've put some of it on socials as well.
Just going to bring one out to show people as well.
Oh, yeah, I think Yusuf's going to grab one, so we'll be able to show you that later on. So each of the 9 realms, each of the beers is going to be a tribute to the 9 realms. So the first one up being Odin's Gaze is obviously Asgard, and I don't know which the next one is. I thought that we should do.
We sent Yusuf out the room just for the important part.
But then
Pete can tell us what the next one is.
What's that? Oh.
Which realm's up next? Why do you work that out?
Instead of butchering the pronunciation, is it Elfine?
Elfine.
Yes. Elfine, that's it.
Right, okay, fair enough. Elfine is up next. But to launch the series, we have done a total of 4 beers. So there's the Pale, which is part of the 9 realms, and then there's 3 other beers. So there's Celestial Steed, which we'll be trying next. There's Fenrir's Howl, and then there's also a beer called Cosmic Coil, which is a cherry and peach sour. But we only have time to do the 3 today.
Get some questions.
The question that I know that you guys always get asked continuously, it's kind of what you guys have almost become famous for, is where do your names come from, and what is your favourite one?
My favourite name is still ridiculous. I don't even know why we went with it, but Kylie goes.
Goes Lassie.
It was so stupid. It was such. The artwork was Kylie right in the back of a Lassie. It was so
with the Ethiopian flag behind
so
her as well.
stupid.
Well, I must unfortunately lay claim to that particular idea, and I think I must have smoked something or had some mushrooms or something, because I really don't know where that came from, and I do deeply regret it.
What's your favourite one, then, Lee?
I've just taken the mic off him because I get another go. So Sam in our sales team does come up with some really good ideas for beer names, and she had one which was the Olivia Gluten Gone, which is one of our earlier gluten-free beers, and the Pink Ladies can artwork was awesome. But unfortunately, when Olivia Newton-John passed, we thought it'd be a bit, especially as it's gone. Probably bring that back. Yeah. So maybe Gluten Gone instead.
So going back to the original question, so where the ideas come from, in the early days it used to be me and Wayne. We are very, very thankful to be able to share that burden now. It actually got to the point where it would take me more time to come up with a name than it would to design the bloody recipe. So I'm very glad that we have the marketing team and an internal communication tool where we're able to ask the entire company if they have any ideas. So we'll post, we're making this type of beer, it's going to have these ingredients. We might have a loose idea of what we want to theme it about, and then the team generally feed in lots of ideas. And like Wayne said, Sam and her wife are a really rich vein of ideas for those kind of things. And finally, I would say my favourite one wasn't conceived by anybody in the Brew York team. It was a regular in our bar in the centre of town. And he came up with Juice Campbell versus the Army of Dankness, which I think is one of the best names we've ever had.
I also enjoy the numbers that have been left on the cutting room floor. Like, my personal favourite is still Operation Nutri.
Oh my!
Or the evergreen Sesh Pest, which I think was shouted down several times. That seems
These
to
were
be
all of his ideas. We just said that.
And I believe before this started, I was told I was about to get cancelled.
Yeah, have we got any questions, guys, before we move on to the second bit? Oh.
I would like to know what style of session test would have been.
It would have been a session pale ale. Right, very nice. Any other questions, guys? No, lovely. So this is Lee's Panini sticker album.
Here's the poster. Pre-populated with the Odin's Gaze artwork, and in the top section is where you put the other two beers we'll be drinking today, as well as the one we're not tasting, Cosmic Coil, and then you will fill in the rest as the year progresses.
I have 6 of these today.
Right.
If anyone wants to come to the Verdant one at 8:45, I'm going to have no idea what's happening around me.
Yeah, so how does that work? So when it's 5.2%, you give us a thimbleful, and then when it's 8.5%, you give us a half pint.
To be fair, me and Bacon have been topping ourselves, so we just felt sorry for your delicate state and wanted to save you a little bit. So beer number 2, and we will answer loads more questions, so if you've got any, build them up in between, otherwise we just keep waffling. So beer number 2, as we mentioned, Celestial Steed. So I didn't even know what matcha was, which was the interesting thing with this one. It tastes like grass, looks like grass. It's a green powder, isn't it? Yeah. So this is something one of our brewers, Ben, an idea he had. And it's something he's wanted to do for a while, so we incorporated that into the recipe for this year's birthday special. So just 5 different grains in this beer, so a little bit simpler than some of our complicated grain bodies on our stouts. So barley, malted barley, we use in all beers. Oats and a bit of Carafa free, which gives it the dark colour, and no astringency in that colour. So really, really simple grain. Although you only listed 3 for me, and you said it only uses 5.
Well, that's in different types of barley.
Right, sorry, barley. This is a problem with the script because I can't blag it if you wrote only 3 things on me instead of 5. But the matcha was the green powder that goes into the beer. We recirculated it through the process, through the brew day. And chocolate, this is a really interesting one. So the first beer we had was a collaboration with Northern Monk, that was our return collaboration. What we tend to do with a lot of breweries is we brew it home and away. So we go and brew at their brewery, they brew at our brewery, and we try and learn little bits from each other. So when we brewed with Northern Monk, we did a chocolate porter. I don't know what the name was, but the artwork was awesome. It was
York Skyline.
It was just York.
Yeah, it's the York Skyline with a lovely kind of silhouette of the Minster, but they'd worked with a York chocolate supplier.
It's Drew Millars.
Yeah. And so Drew Millard, the artist who does the Leeds International Posters Beer Festival, really, really cool artist. And the cans were really cool, but it sold out so quickly. They sent us one case of beer. This isn't a slight on them, by the way. They sent us a case of beer.
This is, if we can all, they're suggesting we all go and boycott.
Yeah. They sent us a case of beer to pass between staff. And I was on holiday and I came back and I was like, oh, where's all the cans gone? And someone had thankfully, probably you said, left one on my desk. And I was like, oh, amazing. So the artwork is really, really cool. So if you haven't seen it, unfortunately you can't get it anymore. But
Well, you did better than me. I didn't get one.
oops. But no, it's really, really cool. But one of the things that it was a freeway collaboration in that we worked with York Cocoa Works for the first time. So the Leeds-based pro introduced us to the team at York Cocoa Works and a technique that we've not used before. So they made a custom chocolate emulsion that they incorporated into the beer, and that's what we did on this one. So the tip came from Brian, who was here yesterday. The production Lee's equivalent number, Northern Monk.
I think his official title is technical director.
Yeah, but he said in his talk yesterday, basically technical director, but also head brewer. So yeah, the Celestial Steed, it's still an Asgard. So it's the horse that Odin rides.
Sleipnir.
Right, I kind of
Really got into God of War, didn't
really. Apparently it was the fastest and most powerful horse in existence, if you've been wondering.
8 legs as well.
8 legs, yeah. That's why he runs so fast. So anyway, I'm going to taste the beer and I'm going to pass the mic to Lee.
Okay, so who's sampled this now? So I've not drunk matcha before, so I don't know if that does taste like matcha or not. So
I'm just putting it out there that matcha tastes fucking awful. And it tastes like fresh grass clippings, and that does not taste like matcha. That tastes.
I mean, the flavour I'm getting, when I first smelt it, I got licorice, and then when I've tasted it, I'm getting licorice. And I don't know where that's coming
really
from. Is
sweet
that
licorice.
matcha? Does that taste like licorice?
No, it tastes really good.
Right. Yeah, and I would have preferred a bigger chocolate character to it. I think it's there in the background. It's not as pronounced as I would like that to be. What do we think?
If you ever want to know what's wrong with the beer, you ask a guy who brewed it, and he'll quite happily tell you why it's the worst thing that he's ever made in his life. It's really hard to compliment a brewer going like, this 5.5%, absolutely fantastic, because they will tell you why you are wrong.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what we did with Tinkerman. We can always find an improvement to make, and we probably should stop at some point, but we like to keep going. Okay, so should we move on to some more questions?
Yeah, so any other questions that have come up? If not, I will carry on. Right, so...
I think Ian's got one of them.
Oh, right.
It's probably going to be crass, but anyway, here we go. What was I playing a lot of before God of War? Right. Probably Gran Turismo 7. I'm totally hooked on that.
So we're doing a 7 series next year.
For our 10th birthday.
Just to make sense.
Yeah, that would make
I
more
mean, you're
sense
doing 12
whatsoever.
beers for your 9th birthday.
Yeah, quite well made.
So a question that I've asked every time in all these tastings is we're currently going through quite a time of not hardship but tumultuous time in our industry. What is it that you guys are seeing as kind of the major issues that we're facing right now as a community, a craft beer community as a whole?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we've got as a small independent business, so we are still a small independent business, it's just myself and Lee, the only shareholders. We've started this from obviously nothing 10 years ago to we've got about 130 employees now. Every time I tell Lee this, the number keeps jumping up.
We thought it was 120.
Yeah, well, we opened another bar, didn't we, last week? So, so yeah, we've got 130.
Do you remember opening that bar, Lee?
So, but one of the biggest challenges we have is the change in employment law recently. So minimum wage has gone up, national insurance has gone up, and as a business, we feel it's only right to try and boost the rest of our employees' wages a little bit at the same time because we can't put the lowest earners' salaries up. But that comes at a big cost to us. We don't make a huge profit as a business, and I'll be open and frank, we only made we made a profit, which is amazing as a brewery. We made about £100,000 profit last year. Our costs this year are going up £200,000. So the only way we can avoid making a loss is to grow as a business. So it's really challenging because everyone keeps saying it's amazing. You guys seem to be doing loads and loads. We can't stand still because the costs just keep going up, and there's not much we can do because we can't put the price up because unfortunately, craft beers. Craft beer is a luxury. If we keep putting the price of our beer up, you guys, well not you guys in particular, but a lot of people, a lot of our customer base will just switch to a cheaper alternative. And there is that option out there because there's mainstream beer. So even if independent breweries can't afford to do it with their price, mainstream multinational they can undercut us easily. So we've got a limit to what we can sell our beer at. So the only way for us to compete is to keep growing. And if we grow, we can afford to then keep paying these extra costs. So it's a real challenge, but thankfully our team are amazing and we managed to do it. So.
Sorry, it's me that goes on.
It's numbers, I'm passionate.
Yeah, well, and I'm going to add to those numbers. You might tell me off for doing this, but to give that some context, a brewery typically yields about 10%. So if our costs go up by 200,000, that means our revenue needs to go up by 2 million to stay exactly where we were. That's what the delightful virtual leagues has done to not just us, all small businesses. So yeah, it's tricky times, but we have backed ourselves. We expect to grow. We've opened a few new venues that seem to be doing well. Hopefully that's not the last of that. But maybe next time we can give you a better update on that.
I do love how much you guys have formed. I remember, so I used to work at Rook and Gaskell down on Hull Road and took many years. And I remember Wayne coming in and going, "I've taken redundancy. I'm going to start a brewery." And I went, "We'll see how long that lasts." And 10 years later, I'm stuck here after having worked for 3 years. But it's, I mean, a little bit negative there, but it's something that you guys are doing really well. It's like the community that we've grown in craft beer. What is it that gives you guys hope to be able to, get up and keep hammering your face against the wall? Mortgage payments?
Well, mortgage payments, obviously. Yeah, everybody has bills to pay. But I think for all what we do has changed over time, and we're not as in touch with the beer as we perhaps once were because we have to have teams to deliver things now. I think we're both still as incredibly passionate about what we do as we once were, and I don't see that changing. We both, I think, are incredibly privileged to do what we do, and we know that. We both spent time working in corporate offices that we hated the shit out of. So we really appreciate what we do now.
I think one of the amazing things is like a day like today when it's our birthday party, you guys all came down to support us, so amazing. Thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Wow. Guys, you don't know how much that means. Wayne is not a massively emotional guy, and he won't mind me saying that. So for him to be as touched as he is, as am I, by all of your support and your presence here, that's something. Thank you.
But guys, I'll just open it up to any questions for Lee right now because we'll give Wayne a second. What can I do for you, mate?
What do you think has been the best change in craft beer industry in the last since you started to know?
So that was.
The biggest,
what do you think is the best change that's happened in craft beer?
What do I think has been the best
I mean, the answer to that is that IPAs now have bitterness again, and they don't just taste like fruit juice. And I quite like beers that taste like beer. I don't know if I'm just getting older and more camera in my life, but I have bought a pair of Birkenstocks now. So
it's probably an easy one to say, but I would say the improvement in quality of the beers overall. The more something becomes competitive, the more people have to raise their standards. So when we first started out, our beers were okay. They weren't a patch on what they are now. But lucky for us, our brewing competition around that time, there were some good ones and there were some bad ones. And a lot of those bad ones have been weeded out over time. And the result for you as the consumer is it's kind of hard to find a bad beer these days. You might not like the particular thing that you're drinking, but it will be well produced. So I think that's the biggest change.
I think that's also kind of comes back to quite a lot of people keep saying is, oh, it used to taste a lot better. It's like, it's probably actually tastes exactly the same, but everything else has come up. Because I remember like first time I had Sierra Nevada Pale, and it's like, holy shit, this is amazing. And now I have it now, and it's like, oh, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's still the same recipe, still the same brewing techniques, but everything else has kind of come up.
Well,
to meet
that's also because of a concept that we call lupulin shift. And the way to best compare this is if you think about when you started eating curries, and you might have the kind of yogurty korma thing, and that was enough spice initially, and then after a while you're onto your tikka or whatever, and then your madras, and then if you're stupid, you move up into the fowls and the vindaloo.
This is a man who's had a curry twice in the past 24 hours.
So I might know a thing or two about this. So the way in which your kind of perception of heat, like chili heat, changes is the same in the way that your perception of hops changes. The more you're exposed to it, the less you kind of get from it. And beers, like I always think of like Dark Star Hophead back in the day. When you first consumed that, it was an intensely hoppy beer. But the game has moved on. That beer will be the same. It's just there's so many more intense things out there that you are now exposed to that your level of expectation has increased.
I was going to say something similar, obviously. No, I can speak again. But one of the things that really impressed me was we've got a US bar. Hopefully, you guys will get a chance to enjoy it later on. It's unfortunately very expensive because it's been imported from the US. There's lots of costs involved in that. And the beer is great, but the beer around you from every other brewery that we've got in here from the UK is amazing, and it's a fraction of the price. Whereas if you go back maybe 5 years, maybe a little bit more than that, but when we started the brewery, the UK in particular was full of imported American beer, which was amazing. The beer in the UK is just as amazing now. We don't have to pay the imported prices. So that really is great to us as a business and as a brewery. And we get to try other people's beers and be just as impressed as we were all those years ago with what was happening in the US craft beer scene.
We've touched on it a couple of times here, but it's a question that I always think gives quite an insight into a brewer's and brewery's journeys. But what is the beer that got you into beer? And it can't be Sierra Nevada Pale because everyone always says Sierra Nevada Pale, and I'm tired of it.
Well, that's an easy one for me to answer. So before I knew beer, I got to confess I was drinking the likes of John's cask, and that was all that was available. But once I got to appreciate beer, it would have been Rooster's Yankee. It wasn't called craft beer back then, it was just a real ale pint that happened to have American hops in it. I think that was the first thing that got me into what would now be known as craft beer.
And if we to park Sierra Nevada to one side, the other beer, you might boo, but it's Punk IPA. It was really game changing for me. I used to drink loads of Sierra Nevada, and then Punk IPA was on the scene, which is obviously, not obviously, you might not realise, but it was the guys, James Watt and Martin Dickey. Martin Dickey was the head brewer or lead brewer at Thornbridge at the time, brewing Jaipur. So Jaipur was one of his recipes, and Jaipur is one of my favourite beers of all time. So he obviously took a lot from that beer to make Punk IPA. And this is one beer that I do think has changed over the years, because as that business has grown, I do think they've changed the recipe and they've changed the ABV and other things. And a Punk IPA is not bad. It's a wedding beer for me now. You know, when you go to a wedding, there's not much on, but you can.
Or a sports venue.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's much more accessible now. But it's not a bad beer, but it's not a patch on what it used to be. And it wasn't the beer that got me into this. But as many bad things as we can all say about Brew York, they actually were part of the reason that I was into beer and part of the reason Brew York's here. So, yeah, there's some even good things to spin off.
Why is it you think Martin Dickey refuses to talk about his time at Thornbridge and near enough denies the fact that he came up with Jaipur?
Is there maybe some contracts that were signed?
Anyway.
But yeah, so we're on to our final pacer. You look lovely. We're coming on to the final beer that we're going to have. This is the strongest, and I just had a sup of it, and it's pokey. What's this beer? And let's have a quick talk about this.
So this beer is called Fenrir's Howl. It is a very interesting concoction. So for our birthday last year, we did a collaboration brew with 8 different breweries and created a beer that was called Collaborate. That beer we then put into a selection of barrels, and it was pre-spiced when it went into those barrels. And the barrels it went into were a selection of Highland whiskey casks, a Islay cask, which is a Kalila cask, which is one of my favourite Islay whiskies, and it went into some Jack Daniel's bourbon barrels. We then blended all of those things together And when we did that, we found that the peaty character coming from the Kalila barrel was still a little bit intense. I think Wayne in particular wouldn't have enjoyed it in that way. So we then blended 15% of a young imperial stout back into the beer to kind of mute that a little bit. And I think we've ended up with something where in the background you can get that it's been in an Islay barrel, but it's not that hugely dominant thing that can be a problem for some people.
It's amazingly complex. There's a lot, and it all works together there. Got a little bit of spice behind. Like, if you guys do enjoy Islay whiskey, I would recommend the Emperor's but you need to really enjoy Islay whiskey.
I'm not a huge whiskey fan, full stop, especially peaty whiskies. But this is absolutely gorgeous. This is when we brewed this beer last year for the birthday. I'll be completely honest, I was a little bit disappointed. It was a nice beer, but it wasn't quite rounded and as balanced. And it was described at the time as a barbecue, which is an awful description, by the way. Texas barbecue stout, which is an awful description, not to make you want to drink a beer, but it actually has that.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020.
Yeah. but it has that smokiness. It has that in the back of your mind. You're thinking barbecue, but you think of all the barrel aging and all the interesting complex flavours. It's great. It's just And normally Islay is not my thing, but the blending back, we liquid it back with a fresh beer, which means we blended a non-barrel aged beer into it to bring the ABV down a little bit. I don't think we achieved the ABV. I think we.
The ABV is still coming in at 11%. So, also into that, we have tried to get back towards what the collaborate beer was by adding some chilies. We've used guajillo and chipotle, and then vanilla and tonka beans. And I think we, as has been observed here, done a really good job of balancing these things, where you get getting the heat, you're getting the flavour of the chilies, but again, that's not dominating in the way that the Islay barrel is not dominating.
It's something that I've always, and I'm about to compliment you to, which is the first time in 10 years, so I do apologise. I've always thought you was one of the best dark beer breweries in the country. I've always thought like the dark beers that you guys do is absolutely exceptional. What's your favourite beer that you've done over the past 9 years? Maybe an underrated gem. Don't say Take the Sour Black, that was awful. But what is the beer that you thought maybe it wasn't appreciated at the time, or what? Yeah.
There's probably been a few of those over the years. The amount of beers that myself, Wayne, the brewers will say, "Oh, this beer's amazing," and then it doesn't sell very well. We literally give it the brewer's curse. That's what we now call it. If we really like it, it doesn't sell, and that's the exact example I was going to give. So if you go to the very back of the room on our sour bar, last bar you get to on the left, I believe. We've got a beer on there called Magna Rockstar, which is a pineapple, mango, chili, and ginger sour. So all sorts
just trying to make up the word
should work. Yes. Well, I was just trying to remember the ingredients as I was saying them. And I think that is the best beer we made last year. I think it's one of the best things we have ever created in terms of the balance of those very, very bold characters. But it didn't sell because it's a relatively strong sour that has chilies in it.
We always give this answer as well. So, but the reason we give it is because it's true. So our barrel-aged Empress Don Coco is and always will be one of the best beers we brew every year. And one of my favourites we ever did was the first one we did, which was the Jack Daniel's barrel-aged one. And we were being a bit snobby, I guess, thinking, oh, Jack Daniel's barrel age won't work as well as some of these fancy bourbons. But it was amazing. And it was amazing because the barrel we got was still full of Jack Daniels. We obviously didn't, we emptied it out before we put the beer in, but it was wet. It still had all the Jack Daniels in it, which really helped with the flavour. And I think it gained an extra 2 or 3% in ABV in barrel while we were aging it. That was the first time we realised that we had to liquor back so we had to add weaker beer to it to bring the ABV back to the level it went in the barrel at, to make sure that we didn't sell beer and not pay the right duty on it. But we did keep some that was unliquored back, and that was amazing. It was so good. The extra boost it got from the Jack Daniels was great. But the ones we won the most awards for were the Buffalo Trace.
But I think that first year when we did it was we learned a lot. I think it was the first time we got a real appreciation for how different spirit barrels can be. Because we did Jack Daniels, Buffalo Trace, Wild Turkey, and every single one of them was different. So Wild Turkey was intensely bourbon because it's a strong bourbon. It's not sweet in the way that some other bourbons are. The Buffalo Trace was the one that's probably the signature bourbon character. It's that middle ground, really,
that was my
really
favourite.
soft, easy drink. I think that was most people's favourite. And then you had the Jack Daniels one, which is really quite sweet as far as bourbons go, but it really did taste of Jack Daniels.
We did launch those beers at 3 different venues on a Monday night in January, which was one of the greatest ideas I ever had of working sales here. And were you in Leeds at Vocation? You were in Newcastle at the Town Mouse, which is a lovely pub if you ever found there, but has a capacity of what, 8 people?
8 people, all of which adore strong dark beers.
And he had the busiest Monday he's ever had, just selling 13% Imperial Stouts. And I was over in Manchester with Watters, and we tried to get a taxi to our hotel without realising the pub that we're in was next door to the hotel. So the Uber still came and picked us up. And he's like, "Where are you off to, lads?" It's like, "Oh, we're just going to the Ibis." And he goes, "Yeah, cool, mate." He literally drove from here to the toilets and went, "That'll be a £5." I think everyone had a good time.
So likewise, you can't be called Thomas.
Yeah.
He can't.
Yeah, he can't be
So he's now Andrew if you're Thomas.
Yeah, there we go.
Guys, do we have any more questions? Oh, no.
Sorry, so before we do questions, I just realised we haven't spoken about the name of this particular beer.
Right.
This is called Fenrir's House. So Fenrir is a monstrous wolf from Norse mythology who played a role in Ragnarok and the death of Odin. Very good. Done.
Right.
We've all had your history lesson.
I'm a big Ragnarok Star fan, by the way. I love it. What could the government do to help? Because I can see your passion. What could a government that looks after the industry do to actually help you?
So in 2007, there was Small Brewers Relief kind of brought in under Gordon Brown, which is what kind of kick-started the entire craft beer revolution in the UK, in my opinion. A year and a half ago, 2 years ago, the duty reforms came in, and honestly, they just bent small brewers over the barrel and absolutely fucked them. The duty system was simplified, which is where Sunak's government put it. It went from 3 different levels to 27. And it's something that we're struggling with right now. To put it in perspective, I don't know if you guys know Tartarus beers over in Leeds. So one of Jack's tanks, and I'll get the numbers wrong, but the ratio is still saying went from 2.5 grams worth of duty to 22 grams worth of duty overnight. It gives you an idea. It's why you'll see a lot more 8.5% beers, and I think has goodness come out of it. I was talking to Lee many years ago about it. It's like 3.5% beers are now decent, whereas beforehand they were just shitty blondes. But I think without a new duty reform, we are going to really struggle as a brewing industry.
I mean, I'd love to see a kind of retrospective of what that has delivered in terms of tax returns, because what happened was they increased the lower limit from 2.8% to 3.4%. And what that resulted in was all of the big brewers taking any beer that they had that was around the 4% mark and bringing it down to 3.4. So the people selling the most beer managed to reduce the amount of tax that they are paying massively. I mean, ridiculous levels of reduction in tax that they're paying. So
that's like 90% of the tax paid in total in the UK. So some of the examples that Heineken were quoted, or people were quoted using Heineken as an example, we were talking like multiple millions of pounds difference in a reduction in tax, and all the independent microbreweries together wouldn't be paying a fraction of that in a year, even as things were. So it just didn't work as a all it happened was family regional breweries, bigger breweries than we are, and the macro breweries lobby the government and actually getting in on what they thought was a benefit for craft breweries, which it wasn't. It was actually just helping us compete. So that wasn't great. But outside of that, what else non-specific to beer that could be done? So hospitality or just what could the government do right now? One of the things they could have done, which they didn't, was they obviously were going to increase the minimum wage, but they didn't need to lower the limit on national insurance. So this is getting really technical and geeky, but that element alone was about £60,000 a year to us. So nothing to do with minimum wage or anything else, just changing the actual threshold of when we have to, as an employer, we have to start paying national insurance, added £60,000 a year to the bill. So they pretended that there wasn't going to be an impact on employees, but of course it is, because most businesses won't have done a pay rise this year. We have, but we're going to obviously now have to grow to do that. Most businesses couldn't do that, so you're not taxing the employees, but you are. You're stopping them getting pay rises.
Yeah, and the other big thing that they could really do, and they are starting to look at, thankfully, is a whole of market review about access into venues. So at the minute, 90% of the beer sold in the UK is controlled by 5 companies. 5 massive international conglomerates sell 90% of all beer consumed in this country. And they control 65% of all venues in the UK. So where we can sell our beer in is only the other 35%, but then there are other things restricting our access into those pubs. So there's something that's been brought in Scotland soon, which was actually championed by tenants, which was a little bit surprising. And they're imposing a new rule where it doesn't matter who owns the pub, every pub is going to have one line where an independent brewer is able to sell directly into that venue for that one line. So now the English government is starting to look at access to market as well, and it's hoped that we will get similar levels of access here, but that's still only one line. That's still a tiny amount. Craft beer in the UK is, I think, 7% of overall beer sales in the UK. It's nothing because of the control that these macros have, and they have our governments in their pocket because they fund their political parties.
I'd also like to just say, it's a statement that's been echoed so many times, and it sounds almost cliched, that if you like a pub, go to that pub and spend some money in that pub. If you like a brewery, go to that brewery and spend some money in that brewery. Don't be sat there when the local shuts down. It's like, oh, that's a lovely pub, but I haven't been in for 4 years. Like, if you're not using them, they will be shut down. I mean, like the Old Grey Mare that you guys have just taken over was shut for 3-4 years?
No, it was less than a year, and that was,
it might as well have been shut 3.
Unfortunately, that was more of the previous landlords, but thankfully we're in now and it's doing great.
At least said about that the best.
Should we go for another question?
Yes. So we live now near Oxford. We coach John, who runs the Horse and Farrier, so we specifically found a campsite and went to visit the pub and back through that.
Thank you. So John he's actually in drinking today. He did a volunteer shift yesterday, but John, our manager at the Horse and Farrier in Otley, he was, I think he was at Brew York in Oxford before he joined us. He's running that place, where he's doing a cracking job. A real nice guy, and one of the things that we find, and what we try to do with our venues, is recruit a manager or promote a manager who effectively they're the landlord, they're the landlady, they make the place what it is. So a good land person really makes a big difference, makes you want to go to the pub. So it's really, really important that you do that and engage in conversation with them. If you think things could improve in a venue, don't just not frequent it, tell the landlord what you think could be better, because we don't get offended by it. We love to hear feedback. What's worse is you give us a 1-star review and tell us the feedback on that. Just tell us in person. You don't need to give us a 1-star review. We will improve it.
You put your hand up like 12 times now, mate.
You mentioned America being a very influential country, but over the last 3 to 5 years, you've got breweries in Europe popping up here, then everywhere. Which country is currently where you would say is like the best breweries, or at least the most underrated?
I'm just going to put an absolute curveball out here. So I spent a couple of days over in Prague in the Czech Republic with that bearded man over there, and I thought I was just going to drink delicious Czech lager. The craft beer scene in Monte was absolutely superb. The small independent little breweries that have just been putting lager out have kind of fuck it, we'll do a pale ale. But we're not going to do a pale ale, we're just going to triple dry hop this Czech lager, and it was absolutely amazing. I mean, you've got Siberia out there, Pivovar's Vinovich, a massively underrated scene that's happening in the Czech Republic right now. And they, of course, drink more beer per capita than any other country in the world, so it's got to be half decent.
And I think it's hard actually to call a particular country out because standards have improved around the world. Not everybody's moving at the same pace, but it's incredible what you can find out there now. So you've got like Funky Fluid in Poland. some of the best sours you're going to ever consume in this world, coming out of Poland. I forget the name of it, but there's a sour producing brewery in Georgia, and they made a Bloody Mary sour, which sounds all shades of wrong, but is actually incredible. So you don't know. Every country has incredible geniuses manufacturing beer.
It's certainly not what it was like 10 years ago when I was first trying like French craft beer, and you're going, it's brown.
So we got any? You just had his hand up for ages at the back.
On a more positive note, I wanted to talk about the new public
So come and
could anyone come up and
come
just
on
show
camera.
branding?
So last week for Easter weekend, we launched our latest venue in Leeds in Chapel Allerton, and it's Brew and Bow, or Brew plus Bow. So this is a concept that United by Design, our branding guys, have been working on for a while for us, and it's just to try and make our brand and our offering a little bit more accessible and appealing to the general consumer market. So we had a bar in Leeds, New Brigger, for a few years, but for 3 years. And unfortunately, not everyone, you guys hopefully all know who Brew York are, but not everyone knows who Brew York is. And despite, as we grow as a business, more and more people know about us, but it doesn't necessarily say what we're doing. And we want to appeal to more than just a craft beer drinker. We want to appeal to the everyday drinker who then will love Brew York as much as hopefully you guys do. So we came with the Brew Plus concept. So it was brew and more. It was about what else have we got to offer. So we started off with, we were hoping to launch it at Ghoul. So Ghoul Market Hall is now been deferred till about November this year.
That's been a really relaxing time.
Yeah, it's been a fun one.
It's quick and easy.
The concept was developed for that, and unfortunately, because that keeps getting delayed, we ended up rolling it out first in Chapel Allerton. So working with Yuzu still, so it's our beer, or some of it's our beer, some of it's Yuzu street food, guest beer, other things, but it's about brew and more. And it's what else have we got that wants you to come and drink and spend time and engage in the community. And it's been amazing. We've only been open 10 days, but it's been really, really good so far. People have really enjoyed their experience there, and it just has a slightly different look and feel. But you'll still get the familiarity. You'll get a few lines of Brew York beer. You'll get some of the Brew Plus beer there. You'll get some guest beer and Bilo and others. But it's been good so far.
You really should go check it out. It's quite a different concept, and Lynn and the team have done an amazing job in delivering it. I'm very proud of what they've put together.
Any other questions, guys? Oh, there we go.
Why do you guys think that? So I heard cask beer. Why have we gone from cask beer being one of the most amazing things in the UK to diminishing and only just coming back up now? Like, what do we need to do?
So that question is, why is cask beer shit? But it should be a lot better. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with a beer writer called Pete Brown. He's probably one of the guys that I got into beer because of. He writes in a very conversational style, and he really explains some quite high level concept. He pointed out that if you go to the House of Commons and you're put on as a diplomat, you're given Scottish whiskey and English sparkling wine. English sparkling wine, I'm going to be controversial here, is shit.
It's not, mate. You're drinking the wrong stuff.
I am drinking the wrong stuff, but you're not given cask ale. This is something that we should be amazingly proud of. It's pretty unique to this country. When the guys first started brewing over in America, these breweries that we started looking up to, they were trying to copy those English beer styles that were done in cask. It's something that has been devalued to such an extent that people aren't paying more than, £3 a pint? Do you know how much effort goes in, and with the duty hikes, to go into making a good quality cask beer? The Craft Beer Channel have just put a petition up on change.com for it being for cask beer to be recognised as a piece of inherent cultural value, and that is we should be so proud. And I know I've made fun of it being warm brown beer, but I love warm brown beer, and I love what it means to the country and to everyone there. It's a great leveller, cask beer. And the issue that we have and why it went downhill is twofold. It's like people not willing to pay money for it, and it's been kept fucking lawfully as well. I was down in London last week, and the cask is not well done because it's not turning over quick enough. And if some people are thinking that's what cask should taste like,
Yeah,
No sparkler either. Most importantly,
Yeah,
no
right.
sparkler.
It is scary that still in today's day and age you can find these venues where if you were to say to them, when you stop serving that cask, and they'll say, well, when it runs out. It's like, well, it's only fresh for 3 to 5 days, and some places are leaving it on their bar for 2 weeks. So you're drinking vinegar. And I've been in these places, you then take the pint back, what do? Not a goddamn thing, they serve it to the next person. So you don't want to be drinking in those kind of venues. But while we're talking about the House of Commons, do you know that the bar in the House of Commons? Tied. So it's supposed to represent all people, and they have sold all the lines in their bar one line to, I forget who it is.
Asahi, I think.
Asahi. Yeah. So a Japanese beer company has all lines in the House of Commons.
It is ridiculous, and it is something that we just need to be more proud of. But again, if you are not drinking these beers, if you are not celebrating these beers, they will disappear.
I think we have a question for Ian at the back. Right, well, we can barely produce it for what they would be looking to pay for it then.
Right, guys, we've got time really for one last question, if there is anything, and if not,
Okay, so you've got 2 beers on the soft serve today. What made you choose those beers, and did you have to edit them to go in the soft serve?
Well, one of them kind of picked themselves because one of them is based on a blue slushy, so that had to go in there. And then it tends to be anything that's fruity but doesn't have a high level of bitterness is the kind of thing that works really well in there. So I think we've got the mango beer in there at the minute. Once that runs out, we're going to put Wagner Rockstar on in there, which we've not tried. I think it'll be very interesting having that chili heat counterbalanced by the coldness of the drink itself.
And yes, we always have to edit them a little bit, just because sour beers, the sourness really accentuates when you freeze it. But sometimes good way, sometimes usually not a good way. So we usually have to sweeten it up a bit. So sugar syrup is typically what we'll put in there. But if we want to go whole hog, we do the Empress mix, which is effectively a White Russian with Empress on cocoa. And yeah, that one always works a treat.
One last thing before we go. I think I know how this is going to play out, but we're going to do it anyway. Which was your favourite beer? So hands in the air if it was number 1, Odin's Gears. That's 4, 5 votes for that one. Hands in the air if it was number 2, Celestial Steed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 also. Hands in the air if it was the final one. Fenrir's like, yeah, well, that's kind of what I thought would happen. The other 2 got more votes than I thought they would. I thought it would be a clean sweep for the last one, to be honest.
The last one is amazing. It's 2:30, so it's dentist time, and we're drinking multiple percentage stout. So if you enjoyed that, there's no point. Lee said about the curry scent. I don't know what we call it now, but now you've had the Imperial Stout, barrel-aged Imperial Stout. You're going to pretty much have to go to Emperor's and drink more. We've got our Emperor's Tom Cocoa cask on, which again is awesome, super sweet, but really, really good. It's like plum sticky. Oh, it's amazing. But anyway, thanks for coming, guys.
Thanks for coming down,
thanks
guys.
for coming on our birthday and making it special.
have a great evening. Round of applause for Wayne. Guys, thanks for coming down. We have another one of these in half an hour, which is Emperor's. I will then be having a short sleep after that. But really, thanks for coming down, guys, and we'll see you in a little bit.
And I might be doing a guest spot at the Emperor's one.